What's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3JR here, bringing you another awesome episode of my weekly Q&A show, Tile the People's Questions, episode 192. We're getting really close up to 200, and this time we got a much bigger episode with a lot of new names coming in this time around. So to jump right into them, the first few questions comes from one of my regulars going by the name of Philip the Darkness March, and you want to know, has Liquid ever met Big Boss's father? If not, would they fight, and if they did? Metaphorically, yes, they've met. Technically, no, they have not met. Now, if I can go into a little bit of spoilers for MGS5, technically, Liquid does get semi-recruited by Big Boss to be trained at Mother Base, but unfortunately, when you get to the absolutely disastrous ending that MGS5 has, you find out that that's not really Big Boss, so technically Liquid has never actually met the real Big Boss in person, so there you go. Your next question is Virgil my favorite Devil May Cry character? No. He's a good second. He has... He kind of fits into the same category. Like, I like a lot of my heroes. I don't like them all being strictly good guys. I like that kind of, you know, I'm not a bad guy, but I'll take out anyone who gets in my way. I kind of would wish Virgil had a vibe like Shishomaru from Inuyasha, which you kind of could put a parallel to, or someone like a Vegeta. And that's the one thing I just have not seen from Virgil. He's too much of a cold-blooded killer for me to like. If he had a good heart, he could still keep his badass, you know, cold attitude, then I would like him more. But I think what Dante has over him is that he has fun with his part. He knows how much of a badass he is, and he likes to talk about it. And I like a talker in my games. So, no, Dante probably has a little bit more popularity with me than Virgil does, so no. Next question is, who do I think will win in a fight, the Blob or the Thing? Well, if we're talking about the same thing, let's see. Well, the Thing can copy DNA, but the Blob just covers and devours and absorbs everything it eats. So I guess since the Blob can technically grow to a much bigger mass, then I think the Blob could potentially consume the Thing, but that's just my opinion. The next question comes from the first newbie of the episode, going by the name of Nick the Ninja. Awesome name, welcome to the show. And you want to know, what is my favorite Devil May Cry game? And that, yes, includes DMC games. Well, the DMC is not a real Devil May Cry game, so let's get that out of the way. But by far, my favorite Devil May Cry installment is Devil May Cry 3. The reason it's my favorite is it introduced a lot of really cool story elements. It introduced Lady to the equation. It introduced Virgil, which is my second favorite character. Especially when you got the special edition when you got to play as him. And it just went more into Dante's backstory, and you kind of understood why he was how he is. And you see his personality trait continue to be consistent throughout the entire franchise, and I'm happy to say that this is where it all started, so that's why it is my favorite. Plus, the gameplay is really the first of its kind. Yes, it did add a little bit of it when you get to Devil May Cry 4, but you know, first come, first served, it gets credit for inventing it, so that's why it's my favorite installment in Devil May Cry. Next three questions come from Draven G, and you want to know, you notice that I have SmackDown vs. Raw on my shelf, which I do, and I happen to have SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. I haven't really played a new one in some time. And you want to know, what was my favorite Road to WrestleMania storyline from the games? I can't really think of what was my favorite, however, there are two that I can stand out. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. I was a big Cena fan back then, and I always played as him a lot. And there was one storyline where I was Cena, and I was in the midst of the Tag Team Championships, which at the time was William Regal and Eugene screwed up, so he lost the tag team titles, and I had to team with Eugene in order to get the tag team titles back. And then once I got the tag team titles back, I gave it to Regal, and in exchange I got Trish Stratus' contract to be my manager. And then another one that really stood out was when MVP, I believe this was in 2000, I want to say 9, where MVP said he was creating his own country and the match was going to have its own rules, and like for example, like if he was covering you, the ref had to count as fast as he could, but if you were covering him, the ref had to count like really slowly. So it's stuff like that that really stood out, because they never would have gotten away with this in the actual live action stuff. So I think those are the only two storylines that really stand out to me that I remember the most. The next question is, what are my thoughts on the upcoming Jessica Jones show on Netflix? Not really a fan of it. I know it's going to have its fan base, but for me it just doesn't look like the kind of thing that I would be interested in. I'm more interested in Daredevil, so that's just me. And the last question is, what do I want to see in a Force Unleashed 3 if it ever gets made? Well, I would just like to see a continuation of the story to figure out exactly how Vader escaped being captured, since that's the ending of Force Unleashed 2. And I would just like to see an end to the Star Killer storyline, since we do know for a fact that that is indeed a clone of Galen Merrick. So to kind of see what part he'll play. I mean, it would be really interesting if it was because of him that they got the Death Star plans, but since all this stuff is now non-canon and we're going to go into Rogue One with the films, which is going to explain how they got the Death Star plans, that's just what I would do if they were going to do a Force Unleashed 3. The next question comes from JDS4696, and you want to know, am I surprised with the good reviews for Assassin's Creed Syndicate? No, I personally have not played Syndicate, and I have no plans on playing it. The last one that I enjoyed playing was Black Flag, and that's just how it is. But heck, these games are consistent. If you throw a couple of curve balls in terms of its gameplay and location, then I'm sure most game reviewers will give it a good score. The next question comes from the second newbie of the episode, Dr. Hino419. I hope you said your name right, and welcome to the show. And you want to know, who would win in a battle between Clef from Final Fantasy VI or Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII? Ooh, that's a hard one. In their base forms, I'm pretty sure Sephiroth would win. Clef is more of a spellcaster, and Sephiroth is much more of a sword fighter, and he has enough spells in his corner to close distance and cut Clef to pieces. In their, I'd say, godly forms, I think Clef would have one up on Sephiroth. Sephiroth only has like one power form as opposed to Clef, who is like a tower. And so you have to go through three different versions before you actually get to him himself. And he has like the powers of a god, which is really difficult with the right party. So I think it's a draw. In their base forms, Sephiroth would win. In their god forms, Clef would win hands down. The next questions come from Corey Rolloff, and you want to know, do I like Mass Effect games? If so, what are my best, worst out of the three? Best to worst. Oh, that's easy. The best, I would say, is Mass Effect 2, then we go to Mass Effect 3, and then Mass Effect 1 is my least favorite. Next question is, do I like the game developers Platinum Games? If so, what is my favorite game of theirs? Platinum Games. I can't think of it. I'm sorry. I know I had a whole week to get ready for this one, but I'm drawing a blank. I know I own some of their games. I just can't think of them right now. I'm staring it right in the face. There's something here that's Platinum Games. I'm sorry, man. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. Next question is, do I like the game developer Pseudo51, who also is the director of the Grasshopper manufacturer, and if so, what's my favorite game from him? No, I've never heard of him, so can't say I like any of his games. I mean, unless there's a game I own of his I don't know about, so. The next question comes from another regular of mine, which, again, I cannot say your name, so I'm going to have to leave it right here. And you want to know, what is the stupidest plot I've ever seen? Final Fantasy 13, all three games. Stupid plot, don't make sense, don't connect, all this time shit, goddess crap, it don't work. Next question is the next newbie of the episode, coming from Faded Toaster 406, which I think is really interesting. Didn't know toasters could fade. Next question is, what is my favorite horror game excluding the Resident Evil games? Oh, that's an easy one. My favorite horror game is Dead Space 1, which I think is probably a lot better than any Resident Evil game, even 4. And 4 is one of the best video games I've ever played, but I'll acknowledge that Dead Space is just the new Resident Evil in my opinion. Why they haven't come out with the 4th one, I have no idea. It's about time. I would love for Dead Space 4, even though they kind of already have a web page, so please bring us to Dead Space 4. The next question comes from, I believe, another newbie, going by the name of, screw it, your name's right here. I I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but I think you're a regular of mine, I believe. You want to know what are my top 5 collector's edition games? Oh, that's an easy one. My Killzone 3 collector's edition that came with the Hellgas helmet. Mortal Kombat 10, which came with the really badass statue of Scorpion. Metal Gear Rising collector's edition, which came with the really badass like lamp that had a sword that could emit electricity. The next one would be the Arkham Knight Batman figure. I believe it's probably my favorite out of all the collector's editions, even though I ordered both the statue and the Batmobile. For whatever reason, the Batmobile couldn't be shipped. And last, the Dead Space 3 collector's edition. It was limited because it was this pack. It was this box, and they only made like 4,000 of these, so I was actually relatively lucky to get my hands on one of those. Your next question is, how many games do I have for all my consoles combined? There's at least well over 150 games. I mean, I've got my biggest collection is from my PlayStation 3 games here. It also goes there. I just picked up Halo 5, so I got to add that to Xbox One. I got a few games for that. I got my PlayStation 4 games, I got my PlayStation 2 games, I got a couple PlayStation 1 games, I just got a new Vita, got a couple games for that, got some PSP games, so I got about 150 games. I could do a whole video showing my entire video game collection, so if that's something you guys would like to see, let me know in the comments down below and I'll get that video as fast as possible. And the last question of the episode is, how many platinum trophies have I unlocked? At this point in time, I have about 59 platinums. I should have more, but I just haven't had the time to really work on my trophies. I mean, since I have to get reviews up as quickly as I can, I usually have to kind of speed through games, so I don't really get a chance to like look for all the little hidden things, to get all the trophies as I can. But if I had more time on my hands, I would go back and play some older games and finish getting the platinums for those games, but I just don't have the time, since I have to get these reviews up as fast as possible. And with that, those are all the questions that we got for this episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making this episode exceptionally special. If you guys have any questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below, but make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday, before I start filming this. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You all are completely awesome, and I will see you next time.